Anyone who knows me knows I love music, and I take it pretty serious. I built this speaker you see here and a matching one on the other side. There's a couple subwoofers down here you can just see the tops of. With the help of a couple friends, I built those. I arranged my office so that my chair is in the prime listening spot, right in the middle of those, and I end a lot of days just listening to music. Again, I really like it, and I think God's people have always liked music and realized, and God realizes how important it is. That's why an entire book of the Bible is the hymn book of the Old Testament. I'm talking about the book of Psalms. In one sense, you could consider it the original Christian music channel. Well, I hope you like this video over a psalm, and if so, then if you do me a favor and click the thumbs up, leave a comment, I always love that, and or share it on a social media site like Facebook, that would be a huge help. Thanks a lot. Have you seen the Geico commercial that makes fun of the fact that people always make bad choices in horror movies? Well, some of our horror stories in life are caused because we make a bad choice. In the first video in this series, we looked at the question, what causes us to be afraid? And the answer is putting our trust in anything other than God alone. Well, in this one, we're going to ask the question, okay, what should we do when we're afraid? And we looked at it a little bit, but we're going to look at it some more because one of the things we're going to see is we need to guard against getting distracted. So we're going to look again, three things here that we learned from Psalms 56 and 53. Psalm 56 and 62, Psalm 56 verse 3 says, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." And so that's the first one. It's simple. It starts there. I put my trust in God. Well, that also starts with the realization that my trust wasn't in God. When this thing hit, and my reaction was to be afraid, it's because whatever I was trusting in went away. Again, maybe it was my riches or my position, my power, the limits, whatever I was really trusting in other than God or along with God, but really other than God, it went away. And so I need to realize that, which probably requires that I examine when things hit. Okay, I've gotten shaken by this. That must mean my trust is in something other than God. Examine what is it in to help move past that, to help avoid it in the future. The second thing is I need to make sure my trust is in God alone. Psalm 62. It says this twice, and I think there's a different emphasis with each one. In Psalm 62, verses 1 and 2, David writes, "For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken." I think what he's talking about there is this general principle. In life, this is the approach I want to follow, to trust in God alone. And when I do that, I won't be greatly shaken. Well, down in verse 5, though, he says, "For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence. For my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, I shall not be shaken." There, he's gotten in the midst of a situation and he's reminding himself, okay, trust in God alone. Because for whatever reason, he wasn't at that time. And that brings us to the third thing, put my trust in God alone at all times. Down in verse 8, David writes, "Trust in him at all times, O people." You know, we can get this in our mind. I have it in my mind, and there's times where, yeah, it's at the forefront. I remember it, and I face whatever comes along. But boy, there's times then when, however it is, I forget. I get distracted. These other things I begin to put my trust in, and I don't even realize. And I don't realize, I forget, it's not in God right now. Or maybe I even purposely make an exception. Like, okay, I'll trust in God for this situation, for this time, but not in this one. Over here, I need to trust in this other thing. Whatever it is, we need to realize, no, I am prone, I am open to being shaken, to being afraid if I don't trust in God alone at all times. Now, as we see this, one thing we need to understand is we're being told, asked, certainly encouraged, if we want the best to avoid being afraid, to make a choice. And that means two things. First of all, a choice is active. This isn't my reaction. This is something I choose to do, the action I choose to do. And also, it means it's possible. Don't hear this and think, oh, I could never. No, we can. Whatever situation God puts us in, we can make the choice to trust him. Now, it doesn't mean there won't still be some fear, but I can act out of the faith. I can make decisions that reflect my faith, not my fear. When I do, what will happen? Well, we're going to look at that in the last video in this series.